Going live.
Oh my god.
It,
Our mic's on.
check, check, check.
Check, check, check. Check 1, 2, 3.
Hello, hello, hello.
Can you all hear us?
This is the first time we've tried it this way. Surely they will see us in the chat. Let us know if they can hear us.
If you're in the chat, let us know if you can hear us.
This is awesome.
So we're not sure if anybody can see and
So
hear
wait,
us
there's
right now.
Dylan. Dylan is in the chat. Dylan, you want to join? You want to join? Or are you busy?
He thinks the mic's off.
Oh.
Oh, they can hear us. I am loud and Mike is mute. I knew you could do it, Cryo Boy. I had nothing but faith.
Check, check.
So it looks like everybody can hear us. This is the first time we've tried a live this way with me and Mike in the studio in the same room. So we're just, we're doing it a little differently than we do when we do our reaction videos, and we're just addressing a few technical difficulties. I don't know what Mike's doing, frankly. He's, I don't know, unplugging things. Can you guys hear Mike saying check 1, 2, 3? Let us know if you can hear him. The handheld mics.
Yeah.
And just put one up in the...
Yeah. Check 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we are back.
check.
We are definitely audible now. We have to be. I can see it. What's going on? I kind of, you know what? I do like the effect of having the handheld mic, but
I mean, you can hold it if you want, if it makes you feel more secure.
it's not plugged in.
If it's like, you know,
What's going
comforting.
on, dudes and dudettes? Who we got here? Who's here? Who all is here?
Who's in the house? We got Cryo Boy, we got Damon, Think Beyond. I see Lavelle in here somewhere. Dylan's in the house from All New Nerds.
So wait, did Dylan? We were trying
Green
to get
Lantern is in the house.
We're actually in a Zoom meeting, and we were gonna get.
Sarunatemi, Dash Trooper. Sunny, Emily, Bookham. I see everybody. I see all.
Well, I haven't heard back from him. But what's going on, dudes? We were together. We were chatting. We were getting a little smoky, testing some.
We're just
Testing
trying
some
some products. Yep.
Yeah. And we were like, why don't we just go live and have a chat?
We started talking
Why don't
about
we make
like
this
Obi-Wan, and then we started talking about some Marvel stuff, and we were like, if we're gonna muse, we might as well muse on live,
This
right?
is a 420 stream without the 420.
Right.
We're like over a month early. Although we should do a 420 stream.
We
That
should
would
do
be
this
fun.
again on 420.
But what should we talk about? We can talk about Obi-Wan. We were talking about Moon Knight's coming up. It's been kind of like I said. I was a little bit dormant over the last month because we had a lot of. There was Boba Fett. There was a lot of excitement over certain things, and then we kind of just haven't done much. And now the Obi-Wan trailer dropped recently, and I've had a chance to kind of come back to life a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, let's bring the conversation back to the table. Like, let's kind of, because we were going over all these things that Marvel is doing, and it was like, wow, there's just so much to keep track of, and so many different, like, it was almost, because we were.
But we've had a little bit of downtime since Book of Boba ended. You know, I've been like missing
I
everybody.
need a
We haven't had
refresher
anything
on
to
where
talk
everything
about.
is going and what's coming up, and like just Moon Knight alone, I'm like, I need to see more. I don't. Moon Knight isn't something that I ever really had so much about. Like, I didn't even know what it was before
Yeah.
they announced it. So like,
This is what we were talking about right when we said, hey, wait, put this on pause, let's go live. And for the past hour, we've been trying to make the technical side work. I think one of the reasons I am so excited about it is because I know almost nothing about it. Like, obviously, when it was announced, I went and read, like, a Wikipedia entry about the comic character. But it's not necessarily going to follow much of the comic character's story. There are already some, like, notable differences.
Yeah.
Like,
So
he's English, whereas I don't believe he's English in the comic, nor is Oscar Isaac, the actor, English.
so wait a minute. First of all, disclaimer: we are incredibly fucking stoned, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
did just freaking smoke some more. So if you guys are, you know what, if you smoke weed, go ahead, join us, toke us. We saw somebody was rolling a joint, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, it was Cryo Boy, and he
We
succeeded.
wanted to make
in
this a
3
420
minutes or
stream,
less.
but we were definitely a little late on that.
We're a little behind the.
And Matthew Dunham with the $10 super chat.
Hey, thanks,
buddy.
buddy.
That's amazing. That'll help Jenny pay for the herb
the
that
products
she
we were sampling.
Loafman 23. Are you more excited for Kenobi or Ahsoka? You know what? Right
Oh,
now,
that's
Kenobi,
hard.
because Kenobi's right. It's on the dinner plate. We're about to eat it. My
Yeah.
appetite for that right now
Yeah.
is active.
I
and
mean,
I'm getting,
I'm gonna say Ahsoka just because I love her, but like, I also share that like it's on the dinner plate. Like, I'm really ready for Kenobi, and there's some things I'm excited
you
about.
have more
that
of an
too.
investment in the
Mandalorian, yeah.
side of the universe.
Every single time.
than
I
the
know.
actual
I
original
know.
Star Wars material that
I know.
originated
Well, no,
from.
the original Star Wars material, yes, but a lot of the ancillary material that has come in the meantime, I have less of an investment in. Like, I haven't watched the Clone Wars or any of the related content.
Yes.
Damon
is Damon.
I haven't seen it yet, Dylan. Haven't seen the Batman yet. I heard somebody on Discord said it was dark and rainy.
Did we see the Batman? I did not see
Haven't
the
seen
Batman
it yet. It's coming. We'll
And I
talk
don't-
about
you
it
know
next
what?
time.
I don't. Part of me wants to be ashamed, and part of me is not ashamed because I just I don't know what to say. I can't get excited enough to make it a priority right now because I just
I'm
have
in
so
that
much else on my plate,
exact same mindset. Yeah.
and everybody's saying it's great.
Yeah, and I'm sure.
I wanna
I'm
see
sure
it.
it's
I
good. I
just-
want
I
to see
haven't-
it.
I
I'll
haven't
get
put in the
around
effort.
to it at some point.
Yeah. And one of the reasons we're able to do this impromptu stream right now is because I don't have my child. And Jenny just like happened to be driving by my house, and it was like it's Sunday. I'm
It's Sunday.
free.
We
Like,
have products. We
let's-
have
let's smoke and
Crystal Light. We got
Crystal Light.
everything.
Cheers.
Cheers.
If you got it,
Cheers.
l'chaim.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. I kind of wish it was booze, actually. but
Slanja.
We should order some Domino's.
Yep.
Do you like Domino's?
The company or the pizza?
Well,
The pizza's real good. I can't deny it.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Can't deny it.
I think actually from a like pizza standpoint, they've actually improved
Yeah.
like
I would
10,000%
agree with
over
that.
like the 30 years. Because when we were little kids,
That was some shit, yeah.
30 plus years ago, it was like when you said Domino's, that was the like
That was the least good of all the like pizza chains.
Pizza
around.
Hut was out.
That is
You were eating
so
like a
funny.
king at Pizza
That's
Hut.
the second time in like 3 days that Pizza Hut has come up in conversation. Because at like,
I don't know how we went from Batman to Pizza Hut.
that's the
Sorry,
whole
guys.
point of the stream. This isn't going to be like a
We're
coherent
not.
stream.
It's not going to be very linear, guys.
No,
Sorry.
no,
Our
this
brains
is
are
not
kind of.
for anybody who insists on linear thinking and like logic.
Oh, you know what? I actually let's address something while we're doing it. We've actually had some commentary about how you and I, when we communicate, we overtalk each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we know.
We're
we know.
aware.
And like we've had 40 years of experience communicating with each other. And it makes perfect sense that it's the people that don't know us well, and we have to like kind of like tone ourselves down in that regard in order to come up on YouTube is like being respectful of each other. We are brother and sister, and we have like an ability to finish each other's thoughts, know what each other is thinking.
There's the DNA. Like our thoughts cohere as like
so sometimes it just comes
pieces
out
of a
like
whole.
that.
Yeah.
We are interrupting each other, but we're also like.
But trust
agreeing
it.
with
I mean,
each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because we're very close that happens. So I mean, like, don't worry about us.
So anyway.
We will try to be respectful of like logic
Yeah.
and like letting people hear what our thoughts are. But yeah, it's because we are often like very much on the same page and are skipping, I think, like 3 steps ahead at the same time about a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, so in the future
We'll be mindful.
while recording. That's the thing. It's part of being in a YouTube reactor is having like that. Because another thing, a piece of commentary I've been dealing with is people commenting like, "Oh, these reactions are so fake. Clearly, they've watched it before, and they're like
Nope.
figuring out the Easter eggs and then going back and
Nope.
pretending." And I'm like, that's sad that you see it like that because I guarantee you my reactions are
You guys,
genuine.
we are just geniuses. That's like.
Yeah, and
literally
no, we're not pretending. No, we haven't seen it. And like, furthermore, we're
No.
getting up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to like see
I
it.
drive from my house to
early.
Mike's house at like 2:30 in the morning to do these reactions.
Yeah, for sure. So
It is
there's.
very off the cuff.
And also, with that said, big props to Jenny too, for being here for all those reactions. I know a lot of we've gained a lot of subscribers on this channel for you being here, and appreciate you for sure. And Jenny,
We have fun doing this, man.
Jenny
and
just smoked me up with some good weed, so hey, let's throw your praises.
Dylan's right. Dylan's like, who has the time to do fake reactions? People are wild. It's true. That would be such a weird use of
Well,
fun
you know what? To be fair,
energy.
I bet there are like probably reactors or reactions on YouTube that are discernibly fake. Like, let's not pretend like that kind of thing may not exist, but like, because people are clout chasers or whatever, they're trying to like people that aren't necessarily into the content they're reacting to. They're just reacting to it for the clicks or whatever.
I guess.
So I mean, like, there's a conversation to be had there, but in general, like,
Well, and the
no,
funny
we're
thing
here to
about
share
that-
our passion for
Yeah.
with you guys, and
Part of the reason, at
Yeah.
least part of the reason, if not like the whole reason, that I think you invited me to come on the channel in the first place, way back at WandaVision, was because while you're maybe more of a Star Wars fan than I am, I'm more of like a comics fan and of a Marvel fan, and I'm really invested in that universe. And then we had so much fun doing it that we've continued doing Star Wars content as well. And what you were saying before, if you
we
could
need a
choose any
kid
color
Jenny and a
lightsaber-
kid Mike photo. I bet we could probably.
I
find
can
one.
produce
Where
one
can
when I
find
have
one?
my own computer.
Here, you know what? Here, I'll
Yeah.
just pull it up on my phone if I can find one of them.
See what you can do.
We were pretty cute.
We were adorable. Are you kidding?
I mean, we're still adorable, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
Jenny's adorable.
But no, you know how you were saying like, oh, you're more of a Star Wars fan, and I'm like, well, the original content, yeah, but everything that has happened since, you're more of a fan than I am. But I am heavily, heavily invested in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And although that obviously exists in continuity with all of the other content, which is very exciting from like a scope perspective, like this, we were talking earlier about like the scale of the things that are going on in Star Wars, the scale of like the chronology, the scale of the continuity is becoming mind-blowing, because it's not only continuity, it's that it's happened over such a long period in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Since the 70s, since 1977, and the continuity and the expansiveness that they're exploring is really like mind-blowing. But even though Mandalorian's world exists within that continuity, it sort of has its own timeline, its own continuity, its own cast of characters, its own universe and its own priorities from a storytelling perspective. And I'm like very, very invested in the world of The Mandalorian, including now Boba Fett and things that come off of that. And so that's also probably part of the reason I'm excited for Ahsoka.
That's the state of the Star Wars universe right now.
Yeah.
They're calling it the Mandoverse. And it's what's allowing a new generation of fans to
connect to the larger
even discover
universe.
that original material in the first place for a lot of people.
Right.
Like, I saw that meme, I don't have it available right now, the other day, where it was like a Trojan horse meme, and it's showing the like Troy is my girlfriend, and the whole Star Wars catalog is inside the Trojan horse, and the horse itself is Baby Yoda.
Oh my god, that's hilarious!
So it's like there's so many dudes that are finally getting to like show their girlfriends Star Wars now because of
Baby
Yoda
Yoda's
makes
cute,
it available
because
to them.
Grogu's adorable.
It's an entry point for so many people, and it makes it very like.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That
That's funny, but I mean also in a very sincere way. I think there are a lot of themes and storylines in The Mandalorian that are connecting with people that might not traditionally connect with a lot of sci-fi, because sci-fi traditionally, as like, you know, a huge gigantic nerdy fan of the genre, has not necessarily been a very welcoming or inclusive genre traditionally. And I think that the Mandoverse has entry points for a lot of communities that might not previously have felt enfranchised by sci-fi. What's my opinion of the Obi-Wan trailer?
Yeah, I was about to say, didn't you say that you were kind of like lackluster on the lack of Vader almost?
Well, no. So Mike and I had a long conversation. There were certain things in the trailer that I'm like super excited about. There are characters in there that I want to know more about and that I think are going to be exciting.
Shamir loves your glasses. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Shamir.
Frames.
They're new. They're new frames. New frames. I think I look very academic. Mike assures me that you could hear Vader's breath in the music at the end.
Your laptop speakers
I
suck.
believe
That's
you.
why
My
couldn't hear
laptop
it.
speakers suck, but the point I'm making is that was all I wanted. I don't want them to overwhelm us with Vader. It has to be kept as a promise, as
We
a
already
tease.
know Hayden
We
is
know
coming.
Hayden Christensen's coming,
spoiled in that
and we
way.
don't want to like overdo it. You want that to remain like a tease.
So I loved it being just a Vader.
So what I would have, I
breathing.
mean, if it's hard enough to hear that my laptop speakers can't handle it, like 90% of everybody in the world is going to be watching a trailer on their phone or their laptop.
I get your point, but I'm going to
It should have
interject
been
and
easier
say,
to hear.
I'm saying no, it's you, because I'll tell you right now, it wasn't hard to hear.
I listened to it
heard
like 5
loud and
times.
clear.
So I'm like, it shouldn't be that sketchy. I would have wanted it, if I were designing a trailer, to be like, cut to black, you just hear one breath, and then the music swells. You know, like just separate it out from the music. I want just that promise, that tease, that like, oh, he's coming. You know?
Yeah.
But other than that, there was a lot of
The
exciting stuff
Duel of the
in
Fates,
trailer.
when the music kicks in at the beginning, it's immediate goosebumps. Like, I don't know if you
Yeah.
get the same thing, but John Williams' music is already one of the, like, the leading factors for why Star Wars is what it is.
It's treated as cinema rather than as just a genre
and
piece,
as
100%.
much history as the prequels have gone through, and what people like the hatred that they went through, like people that like the prequels even got like bullied in school for liking the prequels.
Right.
Like it's been like this like 20+ year period of like, but like no one ever denied that piece of music, Duel of the Fates, is like one of the.
Oh no, it's like nobody would
not
criticize
just-
that, right?
It's not just one of the best Star Wars pieces of music. It's one of the best like pieces of music from the 20th century.
I have vivid memories of like this huge outdoor concert at Princeton.
And that's in the Phantom Menace, which
Where, like,
is
when
a
I was-
movie you probably don't
I'm
hold in that high regard,
not
right?
a fan of, but
But
the
that
music was
music-
good. I was gonna say I have this vivid memory of like an outdoor concert at Princeton when I was in college on this huge lawn, and the Princeton University Orchestra, which like wins all kinds of awards, was playing, and they played the Star Wars theme as like a piece of
The fanfare
great.
at the beginning.
Yeah,
of
they
the-
were. Well, yes,
The
exactly.
credits, yeah.
They played, but that was like one of the featured. Yeah, it was like one of the featured pieces of the evening, along with probably, I don't know, some like Beethoven or something. You know, like it was like a main piece of music.
Yeah.
That they were
You know,
playing.
it's funny because
in all
we were
seriousness.
talking with our mom about Home Alone, and our mom is 72 years old and has never seen Home Alone.
And nor would she wish to.
She's
She
avoided
wouldn't-
it like
yeah.
the plague her home life, probably.
She wouldn't want. She wouldn't
But
like
when she
it.
was like, "What is it? Like, what is it with that movie or whatever?" And then the first thing I said to her, I was like, "Well, first of all, it's got like spectacularly good John Williams music in
Yeah.
it, and that element alone puts it on the list of
it
like
elevates
this is a good
it.
movie."
It's
Yeah.
not just holiday content that like gets recycled every year, and it's not just like family content. It makes it cinema.
Yeah, where it's like if I played that
Immediately.
piece of music,
It's like
a lot
this
of people
legendary
can identify
compo-
it.
yeah, exactly. You're like,
That's the
oh, Home Alone.
theme. Dun, 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 dun,
And you
dun,
think
dun,
about
dun.
like the
Yeah.
classic movies that have those identifiable scores, like Star Wars or like Indiana Jones or Home Alone is another one. Jurassic
Yeah,
Park.
Absolutely.
You know, like where you
Fucking
hear the music
Jaws,
and like
right?
Jaws is the ultimate example, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Our
It's-
local piece.
Yeah,
of
John
cinema.
Williams is easily going to be the way we talk about Mozart and Beethoven. We're mentioning these composers of the last few hundred years, 100, 200 years from now, his music. will
Oh,
easily
absolutely.
Be identified
Yeah.
as that's the good music.
One of the
from that
great
era, yeah.
composers of like this time period, like
Which,
up there with
by
like
the way,
Bernstein
John
and
Williams
Gershwins
is
or,
doing
like...
the music for Obi-Wan.
Oh,
He's writing
wow.
the theme for Obi-Wan.
Oh, that's
so, like,
intense.
we're getting so that's why it's like you hear these Duel of the Fates and like he's bleeding in his past work into the new work, and
Yeah.
I love how, because if you watched our reaction from Book of Boba Fett episode 6 when Luke and Grogu are doing and they're starting to use the Force theme musical cues, I picked up on this and somebody commented about it. You said subconsciously, but you said oh, the music cues in this movie
Oh, yeah.
are giving me.
And it's because it's so cinematic. It is. It's like
But there you go.
a streaming show,
the
but it
music
is.
cues alone in Star Wars, even for you, who's not like a deeply passionate fan, like you know, I or somebody
Right.
else, but like even that, you hear the
It
Force
just
theme,
gets right
it
at you.
it
It evokes your
which
emotion.
begs the question,
your
like,
nostalgia.
so like 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now, like I'm saying, people are looking at John Williams. Do they, kids who didn't grow up like we grew up with Star Wars being something that was like relatively new?
Yeah, in the culture.
It existed when we were born, but like it was brand new
Yeah.
when we were kids. So
Yeah.
like we I don't know, so like we have a nostalgia factor for Star Wars. It can evoke childhood emotions from
Oh,
us. because
absolutely.
I
I remember watching it at our grandparents' house with
So
our
are we,
uncle.
is
you
that
know.
eventually gonna die out? Is what I'm saying. Like, is there gonna be like once that nostalgia factor, once like so like obviously there's a new generation of fans that are like I said, there's an entry point in the Mandalorian where like okay,
Right.
well now Din Djarin and Grogu are gonna be the thing that kids have a like, oh, my pillowcase was a Grogu pillowcase when I was 2. So like you're gonna end up crying about it 40 years from now when you like watch The Mandalorian, like because
Yeah.
there will be a whole new set of nostalgic things going on. But I meant like the original connection to Star Wars. Like how much is there once that connection is gone? How much
know,
is
like,
the nostalgia factor?
Pardon
gonna
me if
be
I get like
affected?
real deep for a minute, but I actually have
That's
like
why we're here,
I know,
smoking weed
like
and getting
this
deep.
is like
We're-
real deep.
We're going balls deep, yeah.
When I was in grad school, in London, and Obama was running for president the first time, and we were doing this whole thing in my graduate course where we were talking about collective experiences and whether they're even possible in like a postmodern world, like a connected world, a digital world. We were looking at like a lot of theater pieces from the 1960s where it'd be like a happening that only happens one time, and if you're present you have the experience and it's not something that can be replicated. And
Like
it was
a Woodstock or like a
well,
or
yes, that is like that was an organized thing, but there were also like avant-garde theater pieces that would like
even though music festivals happen all
right,
the time.
right.
Yeah,
But like
yeah,
the
yeah.
Woodstock would be a
A
cultural
thing
like
or event.
touchstone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But even like, you know, I remember watching this video of like Al Pacino talking about being present for this like avant-garde theater group in this like school gym in the 60s, and they did something that like stayed with him for the rest of his life. So we were talking about like in the world we live in, like can we even have collective experiences anymore? Is it possible? And I was doing a whole like paper about it, and I was leaning towards like no, the way information is transmitted and shared has changed, and like no. And then there was this presidential election. And I promise there is a point, and it connects to like what you're saying about nostalgia and Star Wars. Like I'm not totally stoned. There's a through line
This
here.
rabbit hole goes somewhere.
It goes somewhere. It
All right,
ends.
We're still
It
here. I'm
ends.
still here.
You know.
Stay on track.
So they were, you know, they had the whole world was watching that election. Like the whole world was very, very, very invested in that election.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, like you can even like any current event now is a
true,
world
true,
event
true. But like
because of its immediacy.
as
on
American
social
elections
media and all
go,
of that. The
having
war
just
in Ukraine is
it's a
a
shared
world war
shared
automatically.
event.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I know that's true, but like as American elections specifically go, like
Jedi Jive is getting into weird socio-political territory right now. That like it's
yeah,
like,
but I'm not even trying to be sociopolitical. This is about like collective experience.
Yeah.
So the whole world is very invested in that election and the outcome of that election, and I think more than they would be for a normal American election. And classmates of mine who are from various different countries, in addition to England, were like very curious to ask me questions about it. So basically, the university that I was attending, which is like a huge group of universities,
Think
huge group
beyond,
of colleges.
land the plane.
I'm coming. They opened up the student center, like, which was packed to the gills. We had like 1 pound beer.
Yeah.
Not that it weighs a pound, it costs a pound. You know, like dollar beer, like all night long in the student center. It was everybody watching. And it was the middle of the night. It was like the early morning when they declared, in England, when they declared for Obama. And everyone burst in the street. And it's one of these big broad avenues. It's called the Strand. It's like Fifth Avenue in New York, the Strand. It's a big, huge boulevard. And everybody simultaneously started singing the song, We Shall Overcome. And it was really interesting because, again, I wasn't even in America. I was in England. I mean, there's definitely like a civil rights aspect to that song because it was like a protest song during the civil rights movement, and it has associations with like the March on Washington and Martin Luther King, and Obama was a black president.
And therefore, Star Wars.
No, I'm telling you. But I wasn't in America. And I think most of the people who were there had a really different entry point to that song, which was that, like, Joan Baez toured with it in Europe in the 60s. And then for me, my personal connection was, like, we sang it in elementary school, and I had, like, a deep memory of, like, singing it at a school assembly during Black History Month or whatever. And, which is such a, like, dumb American, like, look, we did our job, check that box. But everybody there was from a different country, from a different place. Everybody's connection to that song was different. People connect to different things in different ways, but in the moment we all connected to it together and like had this very profound collective experience of singing in the street together and of celebrating. And so you're talking about having like an original nostalgia versus a new nostalgia, basically.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm
To
like,
bring it
people
back.
are, yes, to bring it back. I said, pardon me if I get deep. I mean, like, we're not thinking linearly right now, but it made sense in my head, which is that there's going to be a collective experience of watching these shows together.
Yeah.
Where you have a different entry point. You connect to it in different ways. So for you, it might be like, this was brand new in my childhood.
Sure, yeah.
For like somebody our father's age, it might be like, oh my God, I saw this in the theaters when I was already a full-grown adult, and it's still going.
Yeah. And
50
you know what's
years
weird,
later,
though, is
but
that, like, even though we have a direct connection to that original material, you know, we do have a direct experience with it as little children. Content as important and, you know, Star Wars, and like somebody mentioned Darth Vader the other day as like one of the most important images of characters like in popular culture, and like just like it's one of those things like I am your father, like it could be on a t-shirt and it just
everybody
makes
knows
sense to
what
people.
that is. He's one of those like,
even if you're not,
he's one of those villains who's like recognizable worldwide, like a Dalek in Godzilla or whatever. Like everybody knows Darth Vader.
Yeah, so like it has a weird way of permeating, if that makes sense, the cultural landscape in a way that goes beyond just our direct nostalgic connection to it. Because yes, we do have that specifically, and that's for me in particular. Obviously, like I've started a YouTube channel called Jedi Jive. Like I have a personal stake in that nostalgia and how it
how it affects you.
Me personally.
Yeah.
But the Star Wars. It's hard to find the word, but the arena of thought in which it exists is something that it permeates. I'm having deep thoughts and having a weird way of putting them in the vocabulary.
There's a word for it. There's a word for it. It's a metonym. It's a thing that stands for something in addition to what it is, basically. Like it has a literal meaning or cultural
the fact
place.
that it can be a meme or it can be, like I said, like a graphic t-shirt with like a cartoon Darth Vader doing something funny, and it's like it goes beyond just the original content.
It's larger than just what it is. It has like
it's its own
place.
entity.
It's just what we were talking about before. We were talking about the phrase "it's casual" because you said it. You sort of were like, oh, whatever, it's casual. And I was mentioning that it originated in this like early 80s movie where the late Chris Penn is this like party character. He keeps going, it's casual.
Yeah.
And then I was talking about like Clueless and how the idea is that Alicia Silverstone in Clueless says these like Valley Girl phrases, and I think most people who saw the movie just assumed that those were like common Valley Girl phrases, like as if or whatever.
Sure.
But they didn't. Amy Heckerling made it up. Like, she made up a language, just the way that, like, J.R.R. Tolkien made up a language, you know, for The Lord of the Rings. Like, she literally, like, created this dialect, put it in the movie, and then it retroactively became the thing that it... Because people actually did start saying whatever, or, like, it's casual.
And nowadays, something like that can happen overnight on social media, where like some rapper
something gets
releases a song
memeified,
and like
it's the principle of being memeified, right? Like, yeah.
Catch me outside, how about that? Whatever that kind of thing. Like, where all of a sudden it's just now that girl is famous, even though, or I don't even know what I'm talking about, but
clearly.
You know what I'm talking
I know
about.
what you're
The Catch Me Outside, how about that girl that was on Dr. Phil that just now she's probably a multi-millionaire for being a freaking low-life.
But there are these little pieces of popular culture that become like artifacts. Is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, the same way that like we find artifacts
but, like
the
image of C-3PO, let's just say, for instance, is something.
It's
like
recognizable, even if you're not like a huge Star Wars fan. Maybe you haven't even seen a Star Wars movie
or R2-D2
ever.
100%.
Like you're gonna recognize Darth Vader or R2-D2 or whatever. They're little pieces of like cultural memorabilia.
And how it goes to the whole, just how it changes over time in terms of our perception of it, in terms of like when R2-D2 and C-3PO are seen on screen in first time, it's the 1977 version of like, what does a droid look like? What does a computerized robot entity thing on wheels look like and sound like, and beep beep boop 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 beep beep boop.
Right.
Like, because that's what our understanding of computers and robots and things of that nature are in the late 70s.
Yeah.
So it's the late 70s version of how you see the future.
The future retro.
Because we were actually having a similar conversation earlier about how like, oh, we were born in the like very, very early 80s. So like we're 80s and 90s kids, but the environment that we grew up in contained a lot of objects from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So like we kind of grew up in like,
if
felt
we went
like
to our grandparents' house, they might have like a 70s answering machine.
So like
that had been working
part
the
of the
entire
Star
time,
Wars aesthetic is that like, oh, go back in time to the 70s and then think about what the future feels like, or what space and computers feel like. So now, even though we know that's not, iPhones and things of that nature are the technology that were like futuristic.
Right.
Like, we still, when you're depicting Star Wars now, it has to maintain that sort of 70s vibe.
It has to have the same aesthetic, but somehow also make sense as popular entertainment
so like
now.
That's why all the like control
audience.
Panels in people's starships don't look like iPhones and iPads and things. They look like weird, like, just sort of like, oh, there's basically a bunch of just square buttons that have no labels on them, and they're
it's a galaxy far, far away. They don't have iPhones.
I've noticed this in
galaxy.
Jurassic Park too, in the like computer center where Dennis Nedry, does all like the supercomputer stuff, and he's talking about code. There's like a whole wall of just like blinking lights behind them, and I'm like, wow,
server, his giant server, obviously.
Even in like 1992, people were like, supercomputers are just a big wall full of blinking lights. They go beep 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 boop boop boop. It's like even as late as early 90s, people were still thinking in that way. And that like the future of like computers is
well, we were during this conversation about like having 60s and 70s sort of artifacts around us when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Part of the conversation that Mike and I had is that perhaps this is just our perception because we are older. Because we're in our 30s and 40s now, I can't say what the cultural landscape looks like to somebody half my age, 20 years younger than I am.
Yeah, TikTok, I'll never get it.
Never get it. But like,
I mean, I get it, but I don't want to get
it. But the point I'm making is like, take anything I say with a grain of salt, because this could just be like my 40-year-old perception, right? But it seems to me that a lot of the like cultural artifacts of the past 20 years are more like, I don't know, compressed, telescoped, then, you could be like, this is a 50s aesthetic, this is a 60s aesthetic, this is a 70s aesthetic. Yeah. They're very distinct sort of generational aesthetics to any given decade. And then I'm like, I don't know what the 2000s or 2010s
Yeah, what's
aesthetic
the
is.
aesthetic?
It's
Yeah.
just iPhones, right? Like, it's just everything's digital.
Digital homogeny.
Yes, exactly. It's
Yeah.
digital homogeny to me.
It's hard to
So
distinguish.
maybe that's
yeah.
just me being like an old fogey and not recognizing TikTok, but like maybe it is also because time is kind of telescoping and compressing in some way in the world of digital communication and digital connectivity.
Well, we're on YouTube
So-
right now doing a live stream.
Right.
Which is
How meta is that?
Which is
right?
well, I mean, it is, but like TikTok is a step further because the whole idea behind TikTok is the like, it's much more limited time. It's much more like make a quick video.
Right.
Quick. People want to see content.
However, I
in
read
speed.
yesterday morning in the
Everybody's
Washington
the speed reader.
Yesterday morning in the Washington
speed
Post, I
consumer.
read that like the White House invited 30 top TikTokers to hear policy briefings because they acknowledge and recognize that that's where a lot of
So it's
people
just
are
like
getting
in the White
their
House,
information.
it's just like a room full of girls that
And
just
I was
like stare at the
on
camera.
one hand, I was like, my God, that's where some people are getting their information, but it's not regulated or anything. But at the same time, I was like, good for the White House recognizing that there are other people out there that they haven't traditionally been able to reach. So there's, I don't know, there's a mixed bag in there. But I mean, the point being, like, it's obviously a serious platform and influence.
I almost feel like I should go get
In the
a
discourse.
bong and we should smoke a bowl right now.
Do it. I'll
It's
hold court.
this is my house. I can do what I want. It'll
There's no rules here.
yeah.
You guys want to smoke with us?
You guys want to smoke some weed?
Cryo Boy, you have 3 minutes to roll another joint. We're gonna hang out in the meantime. I love that everybody's in the comments just talking about, I don't know, some combination of Star Wars and weed. That's what we do at Jedi Jive. Some combination of Star Wars and weed. Oh my goodness! Somebody in the comment just says that William Hurt died.
No!
Not only Thunderbolt Ross, but like a great Oscar-winning American actor.
Damn, really?
Oh, that is so sad. Well, rest in peace, William Hurt. Like, we're gonna
Damn.
smoke this bowl for you.
Not Thaddeus.
I know. That's really sad. So he's a member of our Marvel universe and
Oh,
also
man.
like a beloved
Well, we will
beloved
smoke this bowl
icon.
in his
yeah,
honor.
in his honor, we're gonna smoke some products.
Oh, you know what? Let's do this. We're gonna be so ghetto right now.
Sure.
Well, not ghetto. It's
So one of the things I'm super excited
It's a
about.
dirty way to make it not stink. You.
There we go. We are actually a little ghetto right now, guys.
Yes. Come on.
One of the things.
I don't have any joint papers, otherwise I'd.
Yeah, we would roll one with you, but
Anyways, cheers, everybody. We're gonna smoke some weed. Oh yeah. Well, I'm not gonna cheers you with the
No.
with the bubbler. That's probably not the. That's
not a
probably
sound
the-
decision.
So yeah, I'm surprised that we've been able to talk about Star Wars so much, considering like.
I know. Well, and we hardly even talked about like what were we most excited about.
As more sort of
in
like
the trailer.
not just the. We can talk about it in how it pertains to like our nostalgic experience of being part of the 20th and 21st century. Remember how we were talking earlier about how like we're neither really Gen X or millennial?
Right, there's
We're
this
kind of
like
on the,
hidden generation Gen Y, which is that technically I guess we're millennials, if that even
we're
means
the
anything.
oldest.
We're the oldest millennials, but on the
yeah.
other hand, we grew up without computers
Yeah.
or cell phones or the internet. Like we grew up analog.
Yeah.
Facebook was invented the year I graduated college, so I was like really right on the edge. Cheers. I got my first cell phone, like a big old honkin' candy bar cell phone when I was a freshman in college. That was also my first computer. So, you know, we didn't have like an age where everybody even had a computer in their house, and I think that sets us apart. Just the music.
It's a beautiful thing. Huh. Oh yeah. Looks like I need to repack it for Jenny.
you might.
I think I
just
smoked
rip
an entire
that
bowl
straight
myself.
to his brain. Which one is this?
Whatever the last one you just put
The
up.
sugar
there was.
cookies. The pink.
Sugar cookies.
It's pink sugar cookies, y'all. It's really delicious.
See, here, y'all, in Massachusetts, marijuana is legal.
Yeah, this is not as fine as the products in California, but it is lab created, lab quality.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Cheers.
Smoke them if you got them. I will happily finish that. Yes. If I ever sell this equipment, smoke-free house. Yes. Pet-free, smoke-free. Woo. Yes, cough, cough. They say you get higher if you cough.
Really? How does that work?
I don't know, maybe it has to do with like how cough functions in general. Like a cough is designed to like
It's shaking the particulate into your lungs.
Yeah, no, but it is. But like coughing is the act of like forcing your lungs to
I have this
oxygenate
image
faster.
of like a bird like ruffling its feathers, but I'm ruffling the particulate down into my lungs.
Yes.
Very scientific. Very, very scientific. Oregon Trail generation, think beyond. 100%.
Exactly.
So we did not have a computer at home at that time.
No.
We got one eventually because my grandmother actually
worked for
IBM.
Yeah, yeah.
So we did have like a big old IBM, what was it?
A PS1.
I thought it was 2.
IBM PS1.
PS1, okay, with like the MS-DOS program on it.
Yep. It probably had 30 megabytes
like
of
the
memory.
printer with like the holes in the paper on the side, right? We had that eventually, but when we were in elementary school, we did not have a computer at home, but there was like a computer lab outside the library at our school that had 6 computers in it.
Spotchka flavored weed. Ooh.
That's
glow in the dark blue, glow in the dark weed.
No, there were like 6 computers in there, and so only a couple people could go at once, but you'd have like computers, computer class or computers.
And they're the old box computers.
And we could play like Oregon Trail or Number Munchers. Right?
Number Munchers was a little bit later.
It was like old school Number Munchers that it really was the MS-DOS thing where it was like Pac-Man. It just went across.
This was DOS Oregon Trail, not the like,
everything was green. It was like the little green dots with the X's. Yeah. And that was so magical at the time. And then our cousins, who are way more into computers than at the time than we were, you are now, I guess, but like our cousins were super like, my cousin George went to MIT. He was like super computery. And they had a better computer at their house than we did, and we got to play King's Quest 4.
Yes, King's Quest.
Which was like, and you have to like type in the commands, and it has graphics, but they're super primitive graphics.
Yeah.
And at the time, like King's Quest 4 was like the height of technology to us.
Sierra Games.
That was so much fancier than even what we had at our school. Oh my
Roberta
God.
Williamson, I believe was her name.
Who is that?
She was the game designer at Sierra Games that made all of those old command style games where you would be like, pick up ball, talk.
Cheers! I'm so excited that you know this.
Well, do you remember
Amazing Women in Technology history?
Oh,
That's
no,
awesome.
very, very, very much so. Actually, she was like a revolutionary.
I'm so excited
game
that you
designer.
know this. Like, I want to.
She and her husband
know more
together.
about
Like,
this.
I think like I can't remember if like maybe he was more of like the artist and she was the like programmer. Or,
Okay.
I can't remember if like, but like, yeah, no, like King's Quest, Police Quest, Space Quest. There was all of those Sierra games.
Yeah.
Right down to like there were so many.
It's like the people in *Halt and Catch
But
Fire*. Did you ever watch that show?
Do you remember the movie Big? Obviously,
Yeah,
you
of
do,
course.
with Tom Hanks. The very, 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 very first shot of that movie is him as a kid playing like a style like a game like that where he's like the guy, the adventurer walking into the cave and he's like throw ice pick at wizard or whatever. Like, and it's
and it's still it's like the green little X.
And he like loses the game because his mom is all like, "Get ready, Joshua," or whatever, and he's like, "Just a minute," like
100%.
And then like he gets to like beat the game like easily as an adult like later on in the movie. And it's like
correct. I remember this entire
Yeah. So like just like adventure games in general, dude. It's so funny how this all ties back into Star Wars too. Like, the whole like Luke Skywalker and like this Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer recently with the image of like kid Luke Skywalker.
That was a mind-blowing moment to me. That was
dreaming of the future, being his dad, like we see him as
that
being
was
similar
like
to
a
his dad, but
goosebumps moment when it was just that like image through the binoculars of like little Luke
pretending to be a pilot, and imagining dreaming
the
of
stars.
the stars.
Yeah, oh my God.
That all connects to the like the adventurer's journey. The you know what I mean? Like you're talking about King's Quest. It's that very much like make your own like.
But choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure. Oh, even those books that
those were so popular in the '80s. The choose your own adventure novels,
where you could like accidentally kill yourself if you made the right
them.
choice.
Do you remember there was like a brown, a yellow, and a pink book? They were like these big picture books. If you choose this,
go to page 56.
Do you remember those though that I had?
Yeah.
And there literally were. They got super dark. Like you could die.
Yeah.
What were those books? I have to find them.
Do you want to like cut the bramble with the
I
bronze
like
sword, or
must
do you want to turn
find
it? And
these books.
And you'd be like,
They were like big sort of picture book format. They had like a laminated paperback. There was like a brown one, a yellow one,
wait
and
a
a
minute.
pink one. Do you
Hold on a
remember
minute.
those
You know,
books?
I have to like. This is like, I don't know if this is just my brain, and I'm noticing connections in my brain because of how stoned we are. But the movie Big has a specific scene where like this is what this is the toy pitch that he and his girlfriend pitch to the toy company at the end of the movie, where he walks out on the pitch.
What
and
was
it's
the
brilliant
pitch?
because he's a kid and
He knows what's
exactly
gonna
what
play
kids
with his
want.
own demographic.
And they're
yeah.
like, oh my god, he's brilliant. They give him
Yeah.
a job, like even though he's a kid in an adult body, like he understands how toys works. But like the pitch that they're giving is like, oh, it'll be this like adventure book, like computerized book thing where like
Oh
you
yeah,
choose
they're
your own.
basically pitching a Rosella.
It's not this like same thing every time. You can
They're
like choose.
pitching a King's Quest type game. They're pitching a choose your own
Yes,
adventure
dude, and
video
that,
game.
Like that's the and nowadays.
In conclusion, Big, a classic movie that actually holds up from a theoretical
There you
perspective,
go.
right?
And that's 35 years later now. Like,
Yeah.
we have generations of like video game systems
Yeah.
and computer systems and now virtual reality, and it's not totally out of the ordinary now to just go.
This is funny, thinking we were talking about how like the future retro thing and how this was a 1977 idea of like what the distant future somewhere in outer space might look like, right? Or not the distant future, I guess the distant past, but another version of the world might look. And you have movies that explore themes like computer learning, artificial intelligence, like robotics, the idea of like cyborgs, things like that. And think about some of these other really sci-fi focused movies coming out at the time, like War Games, where what they're doing is basically AI. And it's so funny because like the graphics, everything, like the computer games that they play in that movie or whatever, it's so primitive. It's like that MS-DOS version of the way things look, but the idea of like trying to teach ethics to an AI is still so relevant right now. I don't know if anybody has not seen that movie. I feel like everybody's seen that movie. It's like a very early Matthew Broderick movie. Came out in about War Games. It came out in about 1983.
Classic movie, yeah.
He's a hacker. He's like your standard average like 1980s MS-DOS level hacker where you have to like you have to do things like plugging in through payphones and stuff like that. It's super old school. And
he like uses the like tab
he
from his
somehow-
soda can to like get a free phone call. on
right,
a payphone.
exactly.
It's
It's
very,
like old school
80s hacker.
analog hack.
Yeah, 80s hacker.
And I'm gonna get details of this wrong, but now I just want to reminisce about this movie. It's almost off topic at this point. Like, I think he uses like the grading system at his school somehow to piggyback or something. Like he hacks into that. He's trying to change his girlfriend's grades, or change a girl's grades to a professor. Ali Sheedy. He's trying to change Ali Sheedy's grades to like, show off, and somehow he manages to hack into like the Department of Defense or into the Pentagon, right?
Which is
Like
funny,
almost
'cause
accidentally.
Another tangent.
yeah.
Ali Sheedy is also the girl in the
Breakfast Club.
No, I know though in Short Circuit.
Oh
Which
yes.
is another like
also,
AI
movie.
Which is robots in the 80s.
Yes, robots in the 80s
It's
and what
the
people
80s
thought the
version
future.
of how they saw.
But so
yeah,
basically,
yeah.
however the mechanism is, he's playing these games like that are like Hearts or Solitaire or like whatever like computer versus person game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are all these options of like it's like tic-tac-toe, Hearts, Solitaire, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then there's global thermonuclear war. And he's like, okay, great, I'll try that. That sounds fun.
So
I'll
he,
try
like,
that one.
accidentally starts
And then
the
he goes, it
war
says,
computer.
it's like choose your avatar. Do you want to be the U.S. or Russia? And he's like, I'll be Russia. And then it turns out that
The US
he's
military thinks
actually
it's real.
connected to the Pentagon or something like that. He has actually conducted a much bigger hack than he knew.
It's honestly like I'm laughing.
The
but it's honestly a
military
pretty
thinks
good
that
movie.
Russia's bombing
Don't
us.
ruin the whole movie.
So no, I
Anyway,
know, but
If you
basically
haven't seen that movie, you should
the
go
big
see it.
principle of it that I think I can do without
War
being a total
games.
spoiler is like they have to teach ethics to a very primitive AI.
By having it play tic-tac-toe.
by having it play tic-tac-toe.
And realize
yeah.
that there's no way to win. The only way to win at tic-tac-toe is not to play.
The
only winning mode is
stalemate,
not to play. is the
everybody
mode, yeah.
loses every time, and so it just I think it's still so relevant right now, even though it was like this super old school 1983 vision of what an AI could be, you know.
Weird Science, another great movie. Love that movie.
Weird
Think
Science.
Beyond.
Yeah, but it's still so relevant because the questions we have now, when we look at shows like Black Mirror or something like that are really dreaming, like what the future looks like to us now.
But Black Mirror is creepy because of how very
How very logical
well,
it
that
is.
seems like that could be happening tomorrow.
Like
kind of
the
shit.
thing where you like some of the social media related ones, especially like the one where you can delete people's presence in your field of vision just by like unliking them on the app or whatever. And I'm like, it's a somehow very uncanny valley believable. There's like an uncanny valley between that and believable, but you can almost see how we could get there. Or the one with like the grain in the eye that lets you rewind your memories.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like there are things that are extremely like technologically achievable, and that's why that show is so freaky. But so I think this is still a really relevant question of like, what are the ethical limits of an artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
What are the ethical possibilities and the ethical limits?
Which once again, I love trying to like reel this back to Star Wars because, and I was mentioning the like nostalgic way, just the image of a R2D2 or a C3PO in particular, because they're kind of like the mascots of Star Wars in general. If you were like, what's kind of like the mascot of Star Wars?
R2D2 and
R2D2 would kind of like have to be the like the universal. That's the
two of them as a pair are recognized.
Exactly. Those the image of like R2D2 standing
the like brazen robot and the cute little droid. Yeah.
What were we talking about right before this? Help me.
War games, ethical limits of AI.
The ethical. Oh yeah, and the way this R2D2 and C3PO sort of represent the Star Wars brand in that way, and that like if you were like gonna start, okay, there's like all of this Star Wars content now. Somebody has consumed none of it. Where do you begin? Okay, well let's start at the beginning, like the original A New Hope, 1977.
You have to have that content.
The very, 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 very first thing you see in that movie is R2. I know obviously there's the like the crawl and the pan down on the planet,
right.
Star Destroyer going over, but the first characters that you are introduced to are C3PO and R2D2 walking down the hallway.
It's the beginning. It's the origin of everything.
So there, exactly. In that way, C3PO and R2D2 are like the narrators.
And there's a reason that you get that, like, there's a reason you get that, like, pounding in your heart anytime R2D2 appears now.
Connecting it to the AI topic in terms of the way the droid is depicted in Star Wars has obviously evolved over time now with the movie Solo. Now there's the very, like, conscious, what's her name? Amy Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the character she played in Solo.
But like droid liberation, don't be like
personhood for droids.
Personhood for droids. There's this whole
which was
thing
such
now,
a good character.
because there was sort of a disregard for that in the original. You know, in that like these are these characters that are clearly people. They have personalities.
Yeah.
They have like C3PO.
C3PO has like such a distinctive personality.
He's even a humanoid.
Yeah.
He literally has like a head and arms and legs and like you can't like deny that it's like
he learns and yet
so
he's
the
aware
concept
of his
just,
own
like,
constraints.
and somebody you can just like turn his power off like. But there's also that sort of like depiction.
But
of
he's aware that you can turn his power off. He is aware that he is a droid. Ultimately, he actually does have like a meta consciousness. He knows his own constraints
in the original
and accepts
Star Wars,
his own programming.
He says, "Oh, I'm done my defragmentation routine or whatever."
Right.
He says, "Is it okay if I power down now, sir?" And like Luke's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And you see C3PO just like it's so that they could film the next scene with just like a dummy of C3PO sitting there rather than oh, forgive me, what's his name? Guys, help me out.
Oh, Anthony.
I'm too stoned for this, dude. This live stream. Hey man, this is what we knew that it was gonna be like this.
It was gonna be spicy. No, I've lost my train of thought. You made me lose my train of thought. I was with you.
Anyway.
I was with you. But no, the personhood for droids thing, and I mean, it's the fact that was such a sort of like...
Are they slaves or are they willing?
Right,
like,
and
are they like...
You think about shows like Westworld, or even like Altered Carbon, where like it's just a chip that gets implanted into like synthetic bodies, and that's your brain and your soul. You know, this idea of like, with extremely advanced AI... what is the difference between like a person and a robot? What is the difference between an artificial and an organic intelligence? So if you think about like the personhood for droids thing, it's a very sort of
Anthony Daniels. For God's
Anthony
sake.
Daniels, thank you. It's a very sort of future retro or like primitivist approach to the same questions that are being asked in Westworld. Like, are droids capable of personhood?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, now
What is a soul? What is, you know, what
you
makes
watch
us
a movie
human?
like Solo, and it's like obviously, clearly they are people. Or like, but you know what? There's like a spectrum of droids in the Star Wars universe too. Like some of them are more primitive than others.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, does a droid like reach a point where now it's considered okay? And now you have, like, you display enough of the characteristics of like you know what I mean? It's
You've crossed that uncanny valley, you know? There's
because part of the whole point of like making an AI droid like in science fiction.
Think of,
Isaac
like-
Asimov.
think of,
I
like-
think it's the first. Is it Isaac Asimov that first wrote about it? The rules of robotics.
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
where it's like,
yes.
It can't harm its maker. It can't, like, it has to have those like written into it, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can't harm its maker. I forget what the rules are, but
Have you watched Raised by Wolves?
so it's like, oh, is a droid that like C-3PO, has he had that programming? He has
Right.
had that like, don't go postal C-3PO.
Yeah.
Like, don't.
There's a show that's on right now.
Kill
It's
people.
season 2 of this show is airing right now. I think it's on HBO Max, and it's called Raised by Wolves, which involves, it's a
Stop.
beautiful show. Like, everybody should be watching this show, and it's very heavily influenced by actually like a Star Wars aesthetic. There's sort of this desert planet they're on. But like, everybody should be looking at this show, and the central characters, the two central characters, are extremely advanced droids who have been programmed for different purposes. He's a general service model, and she was originally a weapon of mass destruction who was then reprogrammed to be a caregiver. And the entire show is sort of exploring their development. Like, the droids are becoming more human as the show goes on. But also, like, the deeper nature, like the weapon of mass destruction that was her original programming is still under there. And to what level is she programmed, and to what level does she have control over herself, and which instinct overrides the other, which are ultimately like very human questions. Which instinct prevails? You know, so it's a fascinating show, and there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Do you remember earlier how I was talking about how like certain aspects of like the Star Wars nostalgia like permeate the cultural landscape in a way that goes beyond
Yeah,
the
like a
direct connection to it?
metonymic way.
And I think R2-D2 is actually like the perfect example of like, well, he's in The Mandalorian now. R2-D2 is an actual character in
The
The
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. So the imagery is still there. It's past and it's current.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
his image, in the same way that like a classic like brand image, like a Coca-Cola or whatever,
Yeah.
like it looks
Like,
a certain
he's
way.
already
You
a
would
brand
never wanna,
when
like,
he enters in. Even if you've never watched Star Wars and your entry point is the Mandalorian, you recognize R2-D2.
So I'm like,
when he
so
shows
almost, so in a weird way, what I'm getting at is that like where I asked you earlier, I was like, oh, is there like an expiration date on that direct nostalgia, because like our
Oh,
generation
yeah.
is gonna pass away, and then like there's only gonna be nostalgia for people that got the new entry point. They don't have the original entry point of the nostalgia. They have the new nostalgia
Right.
version of it. So it's like, do we die out? And I say, oh wait, no, because things like R2-D2 bridge that
Yeah.
in a way that like, I don't know why I mean I referred to Coca-Cola a second ago because I was like, that has like a very, like,
Oh,
you can think
because-
of like the red with the white Coca-Cola.
But
and
you
it-
can also think of, like, you know how in the
It's hundreds- it's over
1970s
100
there was
years
that like
old.
1970s commercial, I'd like to buy the world a Coke, you know?
Sure.
That there was this like classic 1970s commercial that was like a huge cultural touchstone, and now a lot of people are aware of that commercial because Mad Men did a scene about it.
Yeah.
Right? So then their entry point is Mad Men, rather than like people who weren't alive in the 1970s and didn't see the commercial now have it as their own cultural reference point because of the Mad Men connection, right? So it's the same idea. There's like different points of entry, but there's a shared nostalgia that's created like between those different doorways.
Yeah.
Like in the
Like I
common
said, a
area,
kid could have like
each-
a pillowcase
each-
with R2-D2
all of these
on it,
entry
but-
points, all of these doorways like open onto a common courtyard.
Yeah.
And in that courtyard, there's like a shared feeling of nostalgia for whatever that is, or
And
however you
Dylan
connect
says
to it.
Grogu seems to be the next generation
Yes,
of that.
100%.
And we were pointing out earlier about how like there's that meme where it's like there are now so many like nerdy guys that get to introduce their wives and girlfriends to that were otherwise like, oh, that's my husband's nerd hobby.
Yeah, right.
Like
But
now,
because
oh,
Grogu's
Baby Yoda, like I
adorable,
want to watch
right,
the
'cause
Baby Yoda
Yoda's
show,
so
and now all of
cute.
a sudden it's like I have an entry point for so many people that didn't have, you know,
that either weren't interested or, like I said before, had felt sort of
and we were talking
had
the other
felt
day about how, like,
marginalized or
apparently,
excluded from sci-fi as a genre. Now a lot of other communities have an entry point into the larger universe that already exists.
yeah, and apparently the numbers Book of Boba Fett had like higher viewership than Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah, I read
which was,
that.
Like, hard to believe.
I'm
It
like
was,
amazed,
but it's like, wow. So like, there's an appetite there, and it's growing, and now Baby Yoda has appeared in Boba Fett. It's like, yes, the Star Wars universe is the Mandalorian verse, Mandoverse as they're calling it, Mandoverse.
Yeah.
And like you said, like there's an entry point, but that doesn't mean, you know, that's fun because if you get on at the first stop, like it's always just forward. Like so,
Right.
we have this like past with Star Wars that we've experienced, and we have our current understanding of it, and then there's the like, oh, what's gonna come next, and we're always like feasting for more and more and more. But then like somebody that's got on along the way at like a later stop now has they're free to go backwards.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
And look at their timeline goes both ways. Like they can kind
love
of
that.
consume the content in both
They
directions.
can like explore,
so
navigate
in
around
that way, it's
in
almost
this
like
universe.
better
Yeah.
to be a new fan because you can have more.
You have all of this at your disposal.
Yeah, exactly. In that
You
same way
could
that we're like,
choose
choose your
to-
own adventure.
Right?
Star Wars. And this is why you smoke weed, boys and girls, because
No, it is. It's like you could. It's like being able to choose the watch style. Do you want to watch in order of release?
Yeah,
Or like
100%.
Chronologically.
And it's
or
my
like
God,
as like different groups. Like you can choose your watch
I love it.
order. You can like play around. You can try it a million different ways.
Yeah, there you go.
know?
Choose your own
That's
adventure.
exactly the thing that was so great about those Choose Your Own Adventure books was that they never got boring. You could try it a million different ways.
Yeah.
You could combine those pages in like so many different ways, and it would actually be a different
Content is
story every
fractalized
time.
too because it's not just Star Wars. It's like Marvel has its own, you know, like over decade-long catalog of content that you can do the same thing with. Like, oh, I just want to go watch Iron Man content right now. Oh,
Right,
I just want to go watch
exactly.
Thor content right now.
Right.
I want to watch the whole thing from chronologically
start
from
to finish.
Captain Marvel on.
Right.
Like, I want to watch because you know, or like there's so it's like there's that Star Wars content, there's that Marvel content individually as properties as
It holds up in every
franchises,
different
whatever.
direction. It's like a prism that holds up no matter which angle you look at it through.
The fact though that you can do it on multiple levels between different properties like that now
Yeah.
in the modern day, we're so spoiled with the amount of
We are
ways
very
you
spoiled.
can consume.
Well, and that was part of the reason
content.
that like the over-the-top fan serviciness of Spider-Man was so like
What in the blue blazes is going on, Orion?
so much Orion. Don't even get us
How
started.
was St. Patty's Day? I am assuming Orion is an Irish man,
Yeah.
right? Or is that wrong of me to assume Orion is an Irish name, right?
Maybe it's a fake name. I don't know.
Orion.
But no, I was gonna say, but part of the like over-the-top fan serviciness of Spider-Man felt like earned and justified because it wasn't just like winky wink. It opened up new possibilities, like having Netflix characters
Yes.
in the Spider-Man movie. Like seeing just that first shot of Charlie Cox being like, whoa! Like
Well, the
possibilities.
meta-ness in general of having
know,
the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and like the idea
Connecting the...
of, yeah.
Yeah, once again,
Which is not only
bridging-
sort of mind-blowing from a perspective
different
of
ways.
scale, from a continuity perspective, from a scale perspective that's mind-blowing, but it's also very true to the comics format, in which there are all kinds of different versions of any given character, like Spider-Man. You could be reading Spider-Man, or The Amazing Spider-Man, or Miles Morales, or like you could be reading any of these different series of books, and then there are different, even within those franchises, there are different series. Like the story just...
Yeah.
Like,
Something's-
honestly,
you know what's
the
popping into my head
schizophrenic nature of the X-Men movies, where, like, what the hell is the timeline? It's not supposed to be. They're just different adventures that the X-Men are having in different, like, books, you know?
Sure.
In different runs. And so, what I like about the sort of, like, blowing open the possibilities with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, it's like, we're meant to look at those not as exclusionary of each other, but as, like, it's a world of possibilities. There are all these different runs. There are all these different stories. We share all of them, you know?
Yeah.
I find that actually like a very comics oriented point of view.
Something
and
that was
I like
popping
that.
into my head was the like, keep in mind the gatekeeping that goes along with sort of feeling like my generation or our generation, for instance, maybe feeling like you have a cultural ownership over the way something is perceived, and that you may want to like that. Oh, like we're talking about entry points here. Like somebody has like a new entry point to Star Wars. Like somebody having a mindset of like, oh, you're not perceiving it the way it was. It's not pure.
The way it was
like,
originally. Oh, I hate that
or,
kind of gatekeeping. It's weird.
So it's like, no, to keep in mind though, in terms of when I was saying, like, in terms of it dying out, feeling like that there's sort of like a need to preserve that, the way it originally felt, the way that it, so that like you can at the very least try to pass it on.
It's like the people who said that like the all female.
It's safe to say Star Wars has been safely passed on already.
Right.
It's
one
already
of those.
safely on
It's
way
like the
into
people
future
who freaked out because like the all female Ghostbusters was ruining their childhoods, and I'm like, why? Dan Aykroyd didn't evaporate. He still exists. Like Bill Murray is still with us. Like you know, we like sadly Harold Ramis is not. R.I.P. But like the original film is still there and everybody knows it. Everybody has seen it. It didn't go anywhere, you know? Like we all are very, very familiar with those movies still. So the new one existing doesn't like negate the old one. And I feel that way about like a lot of gatekeeping, which is just like let people enjoy things their own way.
No, yeah, it's true.
know,
It's true.
like-
Yeah. I mean, I do. There is something to be said in terms of the like, you know what, like being a toy collector, for instance, and having the like, oh, this is like I had this toy when I was a kid,
Right,
and
right.
it's the same. It's the original toy from 1977. And this is like this prized, and that like there could be new toys that like, but they don't take away the value of that original toy. And you could preserve that forever, but like the nostalgia connection that a child then who becomes an adult and like maybe introduces their kid to Star Wars, and that kid has their own entry point or whatever, but like, and you get to share, you know. I don't know, I guess it all goes back to like the whole sort of like tribal nature of like storytelling in general, and how like elders would like tell the stories to the next generation. And you know how when you play like, you know, Whisper Down the Lane or whatever, telephone or some whatever people might call it, one of those games in preschool where it's like if I tell something and I whisper it in your ear, you go around in a circle, by the time it comes back it's a completely different story.
Yeah.
Like it's changed a few times along the way, and that like is scary in that from the points from the mindset of like wanting to preserve that nostalgia, because it's like, oh yeah, you can have new entry points. And I think it's like sometimes the gatekeeping isn't about the like being selfish and wanting to keep other people from enjoying it. Sometimes it's the like desperately wanting to preserve it in a way that's pure. Like you said, I know it sounds,
that makes it sacred.
yeah, it's hard to pass on that to the next generation, like in the same way that like when you tell that story, like, you know, we're not like tribal sitting around a fireplace like receiving information from our elders like through like oral, you know, storytelling or whatever,
Right.
like, and like
But that is how humans have stayed alive. Like I mean that quite literally.
so like now we live in a modern era where there's like
We
cinema,
tell
and we
ourselves
can watch movies, and we can
Stories,
read books, and
like
we
tell our
consume it.
stories, and we preserve our stories generationally, and we tell our stories as a way of remembering like who we are and where we came
Ivan
from.
Reitman passed away
What
too.
the hell is going on today?
Are you shitting me?
Everybody like, you know, smoke
Oh shit.
take a hit for Ivan Reitman and William Hurt.
William
My
Hurt.
lord, this is a terrible afternoon.
Yeah,
in
dude.
Hollywood. That's so sad.
Yeah, anyway, I don't want to be too like I'm a nostalgia purist. No. I'm all about bringing in I'm loving having my son, for instance, watch
Right.
Baby Yoda and be like, that's Baby Yoda, and it's like, yes,
He
like
calls the Book of Boba
Star
Fett
Wars
Boba
is
Fett of
already
the Mandalorian.
yeah, which is what they probably should have called it.
Probably Boba Fett of the Mandalorian.
Or honestly,
yeah.
like we had another conversation about how like literally if they just changed the title of the Boba Fett show to The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, that would have solved everyone's issue with the like, why is Din Djarin and like why are we in a left turn into something new now? Like it would have been like, well, this is The Mandalorian. This is
still the same.
we were just telling, so like
Yeah.
it would have made perfect sense like that.
Yeah.
But how much more do you want to talk about this like nostalgia
Well, no,
thing
the thing I was gonna say is that like
gatekeeping in general and
I think it's important to think about why the story exists in the first place, because a story doesn't exist as a primary motivator of storytelling is not nostalgia. The nostalgia is a side effect. What's the primary motivator? And I mean, in this case, it's the exactly. In this case, it's a classic like dark and light, good versus evil. You know, it's a classic morality play, right? That's the core function of that story. That's why we connect to a story like Star Wars. It's a classic hero's journey. It's a good versus evil. It's like a black and white, good and bad. It's got religious overtones. It's got moral and ethical overtones. It's got connections to our socio-political lives in the real world, like the Empire, versus the Resistance. It's a very easily translated story. We connect to that on a very fundamental human level, and there are methods and modes of getting that story across, like space opera, Western themes, like those are sort of like modes of conveying that story, and we connect to those on aesthetic and sort of social levels because we have like old Westerns encoded in our cultural knowledge, and so we even something that was futuristic and sci-fi, we were able to connect to it because of its like resonance with the Westerns we knew and were familiar with. So there are just like core functions of the storytelling, modes of conveying the storytelling, but you go back and you think about like, why is this story here? Why is it important? It teaches us a lesson about how to like live a moral life in responsibility to the universe, the community, your family, whatever it is. It's a moral story.
Yeah.
How to be a good person, how to fight for what's right.
Which is so funny because like Luke Skywalker, like you can easily show how like, it's like when he blows up the Death Star, he kills like 1 million people. Like a lot of them.
I know there are some
bioethics
just
questions.
at
Their day job being
there are
janitors or
some
whatever.
bioethical thorny patches in Star Wars, y'all.
It's hard to be like
but, I mean,
the hero's
that's,
journey.
Right, but I mean it is that whole Joseph Campbell hero's journey archetypical. It's an archetypical story. It's a story that could be compared.
Oh, Ryan, yes, we are siblings. We are brother and sister.
If you are new here, Mike and I are brother and sister. But no, it's like one of those hero's journey stories. One of those like coming of age, like learning to be a moral person and a good leader stories. Like any sci-fi fantasy book, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's how we connect to it and why the story exists. And the nostalgia is a side effect, right? But I think when I said before that like people tell themselves stories to stay alive, it's true. Like people have preserved their histories and cultures against all odds by telling their stories, by like maintaining their stories. And it is how we like it's our tether to where we came from. It's our tether to like why we exist in the universe. And
you know what?
like it's important that the message be conveyed. You shouldn't have to be like, unless you were alive and sitting in a movie theater in 1977, you can't understand this or whatever. Like, no, the fundamental purpose of the movie, the core function of that story is important no matter where you come from, and your engagement with it and your enjoyment of it is a side effect, just as the nostalgia is a side effect.
And you know why? You know how ridiculous it sounds for someone like me to want to preserve like a pure form of a nostalgia, like an original form of nostalgia. That's as ridiculous as me being like, oh, my son wants to play PlayStation 5, and that's where his entry point in video games is. But I'm like, no, like you need to play Atari.
Right. Right.
You need to play it. You need to experience it the way I experienced it. Like otherwise, it's not video games. Like you don't know what video games are unless you start with Atari.
You
and then
start
you get a
to sound
Nintendo.
like I walked to school uphill both ways.
That's how ridiculous it
You
sounds
know,
for me to be like, you need to like have C-3PO and R2-D2 be your entry. No, like you.
No, Baby Grogu is an acceptable
if Star
entry
Wars
point.
is your thing, starting with Baby Grogu, then
that's
great.
fine.
And maybe someday you'll have like a similar reverence for the character of Luke Skywalker as like some kid that saw him in the theater in '77.
Right.
You know.
Right, but
but
you know that extremely long story I told about like singing "We Shall Overcome" in the streets. I go back to that, which that people have different connections to the same thing.
Yeah.
But they're able to come together like in that big courtyard, between all their different entry ways. They're able to like stand in the street and sing.
Yeah.
And it's the standing in the street and singing that is important, not like which door is more elite, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can come from any wing of the house. You meet together in the courtyard and then you just stand there in the same space and you share the experience and you sing.
Yeah. Which is funny because now like we're all sharing this online.
Right. We're in this digital like courtyard right now. It's very meta. It is very, very meta. Like what space are we in? We're not in the same space and yet we are.
Yeah. And my nostalgia and your nostalgia
Schrodinger is like driving himself crazy in his grave, going, they're not in the same place and yet they are. They're not in the same place and yet they are.
Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger is shitting himself in his grave right now.
They're not in the same place. Yeah. Well, anyway, we enjoy being in this space. I don't know if there's really anything else.
No. We're gonna have more to talk about. Hopefully, I mean, I've missed having actual regular live streams that
we were
planned.
talking earlier about how like it was
impromptu.
very like with Marvel we had WandaVision, we had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we had Loki, we had
What
Hawkeye,
If, we had Hawkeye,
and it was just this constant like, and it was Marvel has, as they've done for the past decade plus, like done a very good job of keeping us on our like what's next.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes. So like it's hard to like I said, we needed kind of like a refresher to get like back on track with.
Well, and again,
the momentum,
Moon Knight is something that I know, except for literally having read a Wikipedia page, I know almost nothing about that character, and I think they've already taken significant liberties with the character that does exist. So, like, this could be almost anything, and I was like very, very excited by the trailer. I'm very excited to find out more about this universe. I'm excited for Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, yes.
Embracing his crazy.
Embracing the crazy.
Honestly, like Good Lord Bird was one of the best things I saw last year. He was fully insane. But yeah, he's really at his best, just embracing his inner chaos. But so I'm really psyched for that show. And then I had almost forgotten that Morbius was happening.
Yeah, I know. Same here.
And then the only reason I know is because Hulu keeps playing the trailer. Like I've been watching shows on Hulu, and the trailer keeps coming up.
That's
in the
where we
commercials.
came into like. This is funny talking about being right
full
back
circle.
at the beginning. We were originally like gonna like.
Talking
we
about
should be talking about this on like on a Jedi Jive Live because we were talking about Michael Keaton and like.
Yeah,
wait a
so
minute.
that's the thing. I had almost forgotten that
was
that
in the Morbius
trailer
trailer.
was Michael Keaton was in the Morbius trailer, and it seems to have a connection to the Tom Hardy Venom.
Vulture and Venom, and they even mentioned
universe.
Venom. Yeah, so
Venom was mentioned in like the graffiti, I think, and in the news clip, and then Michael Keaton shows up.
There's a lot to keep track of.
So it seems like that could potentially have a connection, at least.
There's a lot to keep
At
track.
least that it might be open to a connection.
Yeah.
You know, just now that like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are connected, like there might be like a doorway to a connection to the Morbius world.
I mean, Jared Leto, Christ, he's
Where
about
is
nostalgia
he
for
not?
us
Oh my
and
God,
myself
Jordan
online.
Catalano.
Yeah.
So that's happening.
So you were
I don't know.
what, like
That's
13,
coming out fairly
you were
soon.
13 when My So-Called Life came out.
15, or 14, 15.
So damn, dude, Jordan Catalano.
Yeah.
90s.
The moment when Jordan
90s
Catalano
are
held
just,
Angela
like,
Chase's hand in
Forever gonna
public.
prove to
Let me
be
tell you that it was like the most
peak.
dramatic moment that ever happened on television, ever.
Human existence just peaked in the 90s.
It's
Now it's-
yeah,
it's
that was
just all
it. It's been downhill from there. I couldn't agree more. On that note,
On that note,
and
womp womp. So
that's how you make a baby dinosaur.
we actually did get to smoke on stream. We
Yeah.
came on stream stoned already.
Yeah.
Because we smoked right before the stream. We smoked during the stream. Some people were rolling. Some people were joining in.
Andrew Kelso, is he dead or alive in that grave? Meeting Schrödinger. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. There it is. So yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed. If you partook, that's awesome. If not, that's also awesome.
But thanks for hanging out with us. We've missed having regular lives, and like maybe now that we do have some content coming up, we could like try to
Yeah, and
get back to it.
I don't know if is Dylan still in the room or not. Dylan Shea was in here earlier from the All New Nerds.
Yeah, be sure to check
All
them
New
out.
Nerds. If you haven't been over there, go check out the All New Nerds. They're much more consistent with their
Yeah, they
live
post
content.
so much content. There's a lot of lives.
Yeah, they're fellow East Coasters with us. We love these All New Nerds. Dylan, Johnny, Levi, and also Brent, Age of Grogu. Check out his channel. Didn't see Brent in the chat. He said he was working.
Brent,
today.
I think, was at work today.
We didn't have anybody join us, but in a weird way, I was kind of like, I just kind of wanted to do. I could have skipped Zoom. I could have easily just done this on the webcam. It probably would have been a much cleaner stream, because I don't pay for the StreamYard service. I just do this all manually in OBS, and we were stoned, so it took us a minute to figure out. Technically I'm an AV professional, so I should be able to figure this out. Anyway, we've enjoyed. We should order some Domino's.
I'm pro. Yeah.
Are you down? I think I
Yeah.
may actually have a free pizza from Domino's. I should check and see if I have the
All
points.
right, we're gonna go try to get free pizza, and
Wait, my topic. Think beyond. Wait, Sid. I didn't, but a lot of people hated the post-traumatic depressed Luke. What will the reaction be to what is supposed to be a similar Kenobi? Post-traumatic. Well, no, I think it's completely different because Obi-Wan Kenobi has every reason to be post-traumatic depressed and all that after everything that just had his best friend. He had to basically kill his best friend or leave him, like chop his limbs off and leave him to burn.
Yeah.
Essentially leave his best friend. Everybody he knows either got killed or sent into exile. And everything that he fought for got completely turned on its head, and
The bad guys won.
yeah, and like he had been fighting for the bad guys the whole time, and there's just like every reason for him to be like, oh my, like
To be in like a Strindberg level depression. Life is meaningless.
yeah. So like as far as he knows, like
There is
everybody
no
he's
good in the
ever
universe.
known or cared about is dead. Everything that he fought. So it's like, and I think a lot of people had a problem with Luke. They wanted to see the version that we're getting of Luke in the Mandalorian and Book
In
of
the
Boba Fett,
Mandoverse, yeah.
where he's this like master Jedi, like
Yeah.
teaching, like being the like busting out the green lightsaber. People had waited 40 years to see Luke Skywalker, and then like the first Luke Skywalker they got after that 40-year wait was this like wait on the road, depressed, like shit, why are they even like Luke's life went to shit, like that pissed people off, like so that's completely different. Like we already know what happens to Obi-Wan Kenobi. We already know where
that's
he
true.
ends up in his story. This is like right in the middle, like showing this
That's
portion where
true.
he is
Yeah.
a defeat. Like so, like story-wise, that all makes perfect sense. So I can't see anybody having giving any grief over like Obi-Wan Kenobi being depressed, because it's like
This is where he is in
Yeah.
that particular story arc.
it's not a
but
brand
we know,
new. Yeah,
But we know that he ends up all right. So
people wanted
yeah.
to see Luke Skywalker in a positive way after Return of the Jedi. They didn't
Right,
want to see
right.
him- Yeah. So like that's why it's like now that we've had this Book of Boba Fett in particular, Episode 6, with the deep fake Luke Skywalker now being like, holy shit, they're
My
like
God.
99.9% of the way towards making it like where you watch our reaction, you and I are like, how are they doing this? How? That's Mark Hamill. That's him. That's
completely believable.
Like my brain isn't rejecting it. Like
it doesn't have an uncanny valley.
The uncanny valley, like
was
we
like
made the leap.
Slim to none.
Couple places it falls back in there.
There were a little bit of during some of the dialogue.
That's why I say 99.9.
Like,
and we're not complaining. We're not in the camp of people that are like, it's not good enough. No, it's good enough.
That was more than good enough.
So it's like that's exciting to me. Is that now we get to have that version of Luke potentially moving forward. And Mark Hamill, God bless him, obviously he's not going to live forever. Like, we love him as a voice talent too. I hope he does get to lend that more. But they showed how they don't even need him to do that. They can just generate a Mark Hamill voice. And which leads almost as another ethical of like, does that mean they don't need voice actors at all? Like, fucking Christ, like, do they, like, you can literally just, like,
do you remember that,
why hire?
What was that Al Pacino movie? Simone, do you remember that Al Pacino movie, Simone, that created the perfect movie star? Yeah. She was a sim. Yeah. She was like a holographic or like computer generated person, but it was like a perfect composite of every single element that, like, you know, the angle of the eye to the cheekbone or whatever, like, perfect. They created the perfect person, and like everyone fell in love with her, and she won Oscars, and like she was more human than the humans were. Yeah, you know, it's
we didn't talk in our conversation earlier about Obi-Wan about Liam Neeson. And
how, assuredly,
this is the opportunity.
Yeah,
because for multiple reasons, story-wise, they've already set it up so that like. Qui-Gon Jinn is the one that becomes the Force Ghost first. Yeah, because Yoda mentions him at the end of the Resonance. He says, like, I spoke to your master. And Obi-Wan's like, Qui-Gon?
Yeah, Qui-Gon.
Like, so there's and the fact that, like, Ben Kenobi so readily lets Vader kill him in A New Hope and like, he knew that he was going to become because he was ready to become a Force Ghost. Like, that implies that, like, somewhere between... He has
had contact with the Force Ghost and knows that this is possible.
A Force Ghost like taught him how to become a Force Ghost.
how to become a Force Ghost.
So it's like, okay, like I feel like they've got to have a scene of Liam Neeson and Obi-Wan.
Force Ghost Liam Neeson.
Force Ghost Liam Neeson.
Assuredly.
Talking to Obi-Wan, being like, snap out of it. Like, I told you to promise me you'd do this. Like, and you've got to like see it to the end. I think that's probably how it's gonna come to fruition. Is it's gonna be a like he's get as Think Beyond was saying the traumatic, depressed version of Luke may need a kicker from somebody like a Qui-Gon Jinn.
The other thing we didn't even
because there's nobody else there to do it for him. Like who else is there other than Owen, Luke, Bail Organa, and
so we saw Joel Edgerton's face. Do you think that Nexium girl is gonna come back as well as Aunt Beru?
Oh, is
the
that
woman who played Aunt Beru?
That's the same actress?
She was really heavily tied up in the Nexium cult. She was like she was one of the first ones who left.
That's a
different actress. No. I assure you.
Oh, not the one that got arrested for the sex trafficking.
No, not the arrested one. No, she's the first one who left. She helped expose them.
Oh.
So she's married to the guy who did that movie.
I don't know, guys. Is the actress playing Beru the same?
So find out if she's back. I didn't even look it up. But like in Phantom Menace.
NASA loves ganja.
She was one of the first people who left the cult and like helped to expose them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is she coming back? Bonnie P. Yes, her. I don't know if she's coming back or not, but they've been in the news.
She's in the trailer. You see Owen and Beru.
Oh, did you? I didn't see her.
Ironically, standing in the same location that you see their charred corpses lying in A New Hope after when Luke returns.
Right, exactly.
Being with Ben Kenobi.
And then one of the other things we had started to talk about,
she's back. It's Kyo Boy says.
She's back. Okay, good for her. I'm really glad to hear that she's doing well.
100% Liam Neeson is going to be there. How to what extent? That I am unsure about. I feel like they could have an extensive, like a whole episode is like him learning about the depths of the Force that he didn't know about, like continuing to be a Jedi student to Qui-Gon.
Like think about the Luke Skywalker Grogu episode, where like half of that episode was just him literally doing Force training.
Yeah,
you could have a similar thing, but like Force Ghost training.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I love that. That would be almost like
the
last
bigger part
time
of the episode would
Ben
be just
Kenobi
that.
or Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon. The last time, like right when Qui-Gon Maul kills Qui-Gon, Kenobi is still a Padawan. He's still a
Right,
Padawan to Kenobi.
right.
So like they
The-
still will have that relationship.
The other
with one
thing we
another.
didn't even talk
He's gonna
about
still
on
be his
this
master effectively.
The other thing we didn't even talk about on the stream, but Mike and I had started talking not only about Moon Knight, but we started talking about Hayden Christensen, and that's when we got the idea to like go live.
Oh yeah.
And we were like, wait, we should save this conversation and go live. We were discussing like what the possibilities, and I don't know, tell us in the comments, guys, like what you think the possibilities are, but for it truly to be like Hayden Christensen the actor showing his own face, it would have to be like a flashback type scenario, right?
Yeah, well, most likely it'll be of like you said, either Obi-Wan having a flashback to a memory, or having sort of like a Force connection, sort of like not like Force ghost, but like having a like
inner self,
having
like,
a conversation
yeah, with his inner
Anakin
self, with
inside
Anakin's like the
tortured
little
Vader.
person who exists. He's in the sunken place.
So yeah, exactly.
You know, like Anakin's in the sunken place in the bottom of
and
like
they'll
Darth
be like
Vader's
communicating with
brain.
each other, like in,
right,
or like that it's.
You know, is that
Either way,
the
I'm
thing?
ready for it. I never
way that,
hated
like,
Hayden. I think I'm ready. I want to see him.
Well, what we were saying is like I'm
I
not
wanna
his
see as
biggest
much of his face as
fan,
possible,
but like the
honestly.
scale alone of it having been like since 2006 that we last saw him in this role, and it's been that long for him, the actor, as well. His connection to this character now goes back 23 years,
Yeah.
right? And or I guess 19 years. He first came in the second in episode 2. So
Yes.
19 years he's had a connection to this character. He's had that character. I'm thinking of this as an actor now, but like having that character as a piece of yourself that you help to create and inhabit and are symbiotic with. Your characters are like
Yeah.
symbiotes for an actor, you know, and like
I
for
think with
Ewan
Anakin,
as
that's-
well, for Ewan McGregor as well, like the scale of this, and Liam Neeson, the scale of that as an actor where you've had this little piece of yourself devoted to that character for the past like 19 to 23 years, and re-entering into it, the scale of that is kind of mind-blowing. And so I don't know if they're using a big body double like they did in the original films. I don't really know what they're doing about the Darth Vader body. Someone was saying there was speculation that James Earl Jones might return as the voice of Vader. He is like probably in his 90s, but he is still with us.
Or not. I
And-
think that's another one of those.
Or is it
they don't even
computer
do at this
generated,
point.
or you just get somebody
Because
else
even
with a
James Earl
super
Jones
deep
sounds
voice?
different now.
Right, exactly. And there are other people with like super bass voices. There was a guy on American Idol this week who had that
I think
voice.
they just get
There was
Vader
like
from
a
another
there was
guy
like a
right
20-year-old
now.
white
Yeah.
dude who had a James Earl Jones voice on American Idol like
Yeah.
just this week.
There's-
Get that dude.
They have actors.
You
who do
know,
it
they
better
can
than
who
James
do
Earl Jones.
himself
Yeah.
better than himself at this point. So like Shatner or Walken. But but so if you have some combination of like big body double, bass voiced actor, where is Hayden Christensen? How does he fit into the scenario? So is it like he's in the sunken place? Is it just flashbacks? Is it both? So I'm curious how he's
Two
going to show up.
questions. Let's take a Domino's order. What do you guys want? We're getting to some Domino's. What do y'all want?
Yeah, what does
What do
everybody
you
want on your
Wait,
pizza?
one question. Do you have any tip cash on you?
I have $5.
$5. Can I have that $5?
Yes.
I will buy I'll get the pizza. I'll get the food. I'll get all of it.
You can have the $5 that I have.
Do you want what do you want to drink? Like a Coke or something?
Diet
Coke.
Coke.
You like Diet Coke?
I like it. I don't like regular Coke. It's too sweet.
I mean, soda in general is horrible. Like,
So is
I
diet
shouldn't
soda.
drink it,
Oh
but
no,
I
soda
love-
is
I
terrible for you.
I
It's
love
terrible for your
Coke,
blood
though.
sugar. But I can't. I'm
But
very
something
devoted.
about diets, like Diet Coke in particular, the
I'm
aspartame.
very
flavor is
I'm very
so
devoted to
weird.
aspartame. Yeah, I'm very devoted to my
It's
aspartame.
so plastic tasting.
It's to me
chemically-
to me the other one tastes like drinking maple syrup. It's too much.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what do y'all want?
What do you
Y'all
guys want
want
on your
some
pizza?
cheesy bread bites? What do you want? Grogu has to die? Narrative anchor to Jin. We can't have multiple seasons of
Galactic.
No.
We can in fact.
no.
we can in fact have multiple seasons of Galactic
Guys, no,
babysitting.
wait a minute.
We
Hold the
can.
phone. Hold the phone. Part of the effectiveness of Grogu is the built-in Yoda lasts 1,000 years.
Lives like
you
900
now have a
years,
future
right?
time period of 1,000 years of storytelling.
Exactly.
They're
If
not
we,
gonna
we could
chop
go
off
1,000
at the
years in the future and
baby
have like
stage.
yoga aged Grogu.
100%. So
Yoda.
he's the
I think I
future
said
Yoda,
yoga.
and he's not going anywhere, and he will
Yeah.
always be.
He's got a 1,000-year lifespan
This
ahead of
stream
him.
we've been talking about
Yeah.
the maintaining nostalgia, children with entry points. of Star Wars of Grogu right now are not
30 years from now, they can be watching like old Grogu.
You know what? I hate to put it this way, but ultimately, none of what I just said is actually what's relevant. Even though everything I just said is true, none of it is relevant. What's 100% relevant is how long they can milk the money out of it, because Disney is a corporation that is about a bottom dollar at the end of the day, and Grogu is their biggest cash cow right now, and they are going to milk
that cow
for decades.
Ever.
Exactly, they're not going to be like, oh, Grogu's a dead.
Yeah,
he's dead now. Let's just cut that revenue stream off. No.
100% with you on this. Like they're gonna keep that.
Not only is he not going to die
moving,
ever,
right?
they're going to triple,
the Grogu party
down
bus
on
is
Grogu.
going to keep on trucking.
Especially now since we know from Book of Boba Fett that Grogu is going to be Mandalorian status, lightsaber status.
Yeah, and also he is
becoming a hero
he
in so
is
many ways.
the chosen one figure. We've discussed multiple times that it's clearly his destiny to unite Mandalorian creed with Jedi creed.
Yeah.
To like bridge that gap, to bring the sides together like it's the end of the dark fucking crystal.
Yeah.
You know?
The convergence.
The convergence,
Yeah.
exactly. That's obviously being set up as his destiny, with like the whole scene with Luke where you must choose, you know, and obviously he chose to go back to his daddy, but he's still a force wielder. He's still extremely powerful. We have no idea how powerful this kid could be. The fact that he's this tiny baby and he's already like charming, you know, giant beasts like Kerberos at the gates of hell.
All right, so what do you want? What kind of pizza do you like?
I like whatever. There's nothing I don't like.
I mean, do you eat pepperoni pizza?
Sure. Yeah.
Can't mess with pepperoni.
Yeah,
right?
I'd like literally I will eat anything.
Sweet.
Um,
Anybody in chat want anything?
Think Beyond wants Hawaiian.
Grogu as Mandalore the Great. Yeah, I think ultimately that is the.
Yeah.
Although, like, kind of maybe the implication there is that like Din Djarin will die eventually in order to. I mean, obviously that was actually something that Luke Skywalker talked about, where he was like, Grogu, you're gonna, like, a short time for you is a lifetime for someone else. And we're like, yeah, like, Din Djarin's gonna be long dead by the time Grogu is even an adult of his creature. So, like, he has lifetimes ahead of him. And we're gonna be consuming that.
Yeah, yeah. Every single iteration possible.
So yeah, this stream has been on for like an hour.
I know, we're just hanging out.
But I mean, I'm getting hungry. And
I'm a little peckish myself.
I am still way too stoned to operate technology. But yeah, guys, it's been fun. It's been awesome having you guys here. It looks like the viewer count is starting to dwindle, but we had upwards of like 30 people watching at one point, so that was fun.
Yeah, I've missed you guys. I've missed just like hanging out.
We
were hanging out. We were talking
like,
about
let's just turn it on
Star
and say,
Wars,
hey,
and
that
we
was a
were
fun
like, let's just
conversation.
turn on the live and see what
because
happens.
we're stoned and we're smoking here, we're having deep philosophical conversations that, like, I wonder how much of it actually made sense. But it seems like some people.
I feel like I have to go back and watch this later, and it's gonna be one of those things where I'm like, shit, that made sense in my head at the time, you know. Like, we meandered for sure.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a like meandering stream, but
yeah,
literally.
All right, guys, we're gonna call it. We've enjoyed being here. Thank you for being with us. This was fun. Maybe we'll do it again sometime, and we'll maybe have some guests again soon.
Yeah, I would love that.
Keep it real, guys.
Peace.